the Evolution Security Podcast. Well, once again, it is the Evolution Security Podcast. I am excited to be here, as always, with my twin brother, Eric Davis. We're the Tactical Twins. And again, just another time together, we get to hang out and talk important topics that are great for us to learn on and great for our audience to learn from. And that's specifically from great guests like our good friend John Valentine. You get mentioned a lot here, John, even if you aren't on the show. So we're glad to actually have you on, and we can talk to you, not just about you.
And it's all good stuff, by the way.
Usually.
Now I know you guys are lying. I was on the fence, but I was like, all right, he said all good stuff. Now I know he's lying.
To be honest, again, welcome to the show, John. I don't think we would ever have anything bad to say about you in the first place, John. But what's that again, buddy?
I said, I appreciate that, brother. Likewise, man.
Thanks.
Well,
man.
maybe that he makes us look bad if we're on the same range.
Speaking of which, man, you were kind of dry firing before we came on. Then what are you running there, buddy?
So my competition gun is a CZ Shadow 2.
Oh my.
So yeah, I really dig this, and it was a little bit of a change because I was shooting my Glock 19. I don't know. I've been shooting that thing since 2012, and I just got this over, I think, in November. So it's totally different. It weighs twice as much as a Glock, and it's a single double action trigger. So that was a change. Then I put these lock grips on it to make it even heavier. So yeah, man, this is pretty dope gun.
So get it closer to the camera. Let's see. So we can see it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's looks like that's right. The Shadow is only a decocker model, right?
Correct.
And yeah, when you were dry firing, I was like, man, that looks like a CZ, but I didn't want to ask until
so you gotta just press trigger there and let it roll out. And then I had my buddy Mike Scherhoff. I'm pretty fortunate with this area, like in the Southwest. It's pretty it's a heavily contested area. I mean, like when you ever seen that part in Sicario when he's like, yeah, like you're in the land of wolves now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Especially on the shooting range, man. Like so I've got a bunch of guys that are like Air Force shooting team members and just dudes that are like national level competitors. I shoot with sometimes with Chief Story, who's like the chief of police for Las Cruces. And he's a national level competitor. So, man, yeah. So I've got some really good dudes, but specifically Mike Scherhoff. He did a lot of work on the Shadow 2 for me. Did a reach reduction kit, he did a trigger job on there and just made it really smooth. I think like my double action trigger press is like 5 pounds, and then the single action is like 2 pounds. It's ridiculous.
I was gonna say you can turn one of those CZ Shadows into a freaking Ferrari.
Yeah. It's and like I'm new to the gun tuning side of it, so like we put a reduced power spring on there. Just a 10 pound, or no, I have a 13 pound spring on a recoil spring on there. So it's yeah, man. I mean, pretty solid. I really like it a lot.
More than likely, my next pistol will be a CZ Shadow 2 compact.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not in a hurry. But see, you can actually use those are actually under the weight requirements for IDPA.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that's one of the new things. So now guys can shoot CZ75 shadows.
That'd be awesome.
Well, and John, you mentioned some of the guys that you get to shoot with and shoot around. It's awesome when you have folks that can you can come up together and or they bring you up or vice versa.
Oh yeah.
That's great to hear, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. I need more of that in this area, but I got all kinds of guys like Matt Pronka and guys like that are around here, but we just can't seem to get together. And so where I'm at on this side, a lot of the folks, including Matt, is south of Post. So he lives almost an hour away from me, and so southeast, I believe. And so it's just hard to get together. I'm like really, really craving finding some dudes that want to get serious, because I have a range 15 minutes from the house that is all big boy rules. So
Nice.
if there's any audience members out there that are in my area, shoot me an email at crew at evosec.org that you want to get together and train. I'm open for training partners. So
Just set it
hit
up,
me
man.
up.
An EvoSec range day.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Just put it out there.
Yeah, I am going to do that. We're sitting here talking on the air. I bet there's plenty of listeners in this area. And frankly, my jiu-jitsu gym, I've been talking to my instructor. We've been intending to do a whole fast jiu-jitsu shooting day that we just hadn't made happen either. So you know what? I'm going to make that happen as well, because there's some folks there. There's a real competitive USPSA shooter. I won't name his last name, but his name's Mike. If he listens from time to time, he would be an awesome partner with me to AI or assist me in that event. So we're gonna make that happen.
Awesome.
Enough about that, man. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit of shooting, because we need to actually beef up our shooting discussions lately too. But we love talking about it, all the subjects we do. But I think our audience members are probably craving on some red meat shooting stuff. With that said, John, you are here for a very, very special reason. And, I'm just going to let you say, what do you have coming up here pretty soon? Or I should say, what does the community have coming up here soon?
Yeah, so big event for the year is going to be, of course, the second Combatives Association Summit. That's happening September 20th to the 22nd in D'Iberville, Mississippi, right outside of Biloxi. Um, so, man, I'm pretty stoked about it. We've got some like we've had. I didn't think we could like top it for last year, but this year I think is going to be even bigger. Uh,
Mm,
we got a bigger space. We've got now some. I mean, everybody, all the instructors were legitimate in their own right, but as far as like the guys who've been training in the sport, the guys you've been watching on TV, we've got some more of those type of guys coming out. Like we got Mike Sanford, he's gonna be teaching. Um, who is just an outstanding martial artist, bare knuckle fighter, MMA fighter, jiu-jitsu black belt, all these things. He's a shooter. He was Craig's jiu-jitsu coach,
yep.
so that's also pretty badass. And then we've got Alan Belcher, who's going to be also teaching a bare knuckle fighting
Wow.
clinic. So yeah, man. So that's going to be pretty awesome. I love the reason why I think it was so cool to have Alan, come on as an instructor is because we had this dude, Husmar Palhares. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh yeah.
He was just leg locking, destroy
Yep.
some Brazilian destroyer.
Yep.
That was just leg locking, just messing everybody up in the UFC. And Alan Belcher just came in as an American, uh, and came and just beat the brakes off of him. So I
Yep.
think I
I
think as
remember that fight, man.
far as like a transition for, I think for me, that's kind of like a real mile marker, right? Or a real capstone as far as Americans really taking the spotlight when it comes to competitive martial arts. Just a guy like that, a guy born and raised American, deep South guy, and just coming and just really, beating up a really good Brazilian like that. So that was
Well, if I can say really quick on that note, man, Paul Harris, I know it's MMA. I know it's a real fight, but man, I mean, he was taking people's knees. Like, I mean, he would. I personally think that it in some cases it might have been unsportsmanlike.
oh yeah.
I would ask the professional fighters out there if I'm wrong on that. I know it's a real fight, or excuse me, it's an MMA fight. But I just thought, man, he could have been a little better about that. What's your thoughts on that? I'll just ask you.
Man, a lot of people were scared to fight that guy because
Yep.
he's dangerous. He was like he was to submissions what like Thiago Alves was to striking. Like that dude, like if he catches you, he's really gonna hurt you, and you're gonna be dealing with uh dealing with the repercussions of fighting that guy for a long time. And so yeah, I think he was definitely over the top, but that was just kind of his style.
Yep.
It was nothing kind of totally illegal, but he did. I think he got kicked out of the UFC at one point for holding it too long. I get the whole thing of like going to the break, but the idea of just ending people's career, like
Yep.
that was something that I couldn't really get on board with.
Yeah. 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 Well. So we have Alan. What you got? Anybody else you want to announce, brother?
Yeah, so Tom Kyer, Sayak Tac
Cool.
Group coming out, going to be giving a knife clinic. Um, we got Kerry Murakami. He's going to be teaching his fight to and from and over the gun.
Awesome.
And a lot of the, same guys, like at least 14, 15 guys from last year as well. Cliff Byerly, Craig Douglas, Matt Larson. We got, Sam Ferguson and just really just top tier guys all in there, right? And also, the entire event is going to be, as far as value added, I mean, D'Oberville, Biloxi area, it's a really cool town, right off the Gulf Coast. It's you get a hotel, you got that Vegas vacation vibe going on.
Oh yeah,
Every,
that's a great place.
yeah, and it's just like the guys don't have to compete as far as like training and their vacation budget. They can bring mama out, bring the kids out. There's lots of things to do. Everything's indoors. All the training equipment's provided, and what's also really cool is that this year we got a new sponsor. Tenacor has decided to join us as a sponsor.
Yeah.
They're going to be providing all the holsters for us, so you're going to get which is my favorite holster. I've been using
Yep.
those. Yeah, man. I've since Cliff put me on, I've been using a Tenacor holster. They're just indestructible, and as far as like the professional end user in mind, that's who Tenacor caters to. So that's awesome.
Amen.
We also got first responders coffee and cigars. So they're going to be coming out, bringing coffee and cigars to us. So that's going to be really cool.
Cool.
You'll see them kind of the anti-hero podcast as well. So I really like what those guys do. I love that they take 20% of their profits and put it aside so that way they can donate it to officers as far as like needing equipment, needing training and everything like that, help departments out around the country. So yeah, man, I'm super stoked for this. And yeah, man. And everything's indoors, nothing crazy. Yeah, we've got some outdoor training areas, but it's not going to be super uncomfortable. It's not going to be Spartan. We're at American Top Team D'Oberville, so you're going to be at a at really a world class training facility, and indoors. You're going to be comfortable, cool, um, with great company, and the other side too. I mean, beyond just the instructors coming, I mean, just the type of people that guys like you, Eric, that came last year. Hopefully, we get you down here this time, Aaron. But just the conversations and the networking that that was something that I was like, man, that was like I tried to make it value added, but as far as that's something I couldn't have accounted for. Like I feel like the conversations would have like were just worth the price of admission alone. Like just sitting like seeing Craig and Matt Pranka have that conversation on CQB, just being able
Yep.
to be just sitting on the side and just like on as a bystander, just listening to like those guys share exchange ideas, man. It was amazing. So I just I'm biased, of course, but I think it's one of the best events that anybody could go to.
Well, let me second that, John. And I was there for that conversation, and I just came in. I sit there. Cliff Byerly was sitting there. You came in there, and it became an incredible discussion with two of our I mean influential. Matt's new influential wise to us, I would say, but of course Craig Douglas has been influenced all of us for many years, and just to hear their discussion on CQB, what was really cool. But to your point, and I say this all the time, and I hope it's okay descriptive wise, but our audience members out there most know the levity of TacCon, Rangemaster TacCon. I would argue that that's the biggest event, self-preservation, self-defense, shooting wise, that's out there. I'm that's to my knowledge, and it's an amazing event, friendship, camaraderie wise, conversation wise, all of that you described about the Combatives Summit. But my point by bringing that up is last year was the inaugural event of the Combatives Summit, and it by far in the combatives community is the TacCon of Combatives. And so, yeah, it was amazing, man. I like to think of it as like lifelong memories and lifelong friendships were birthed at that event. Would you agree with that one as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to measure up to TacCon, man, that's like giant shoes to fill. You know what I mean? It's not like a uh what Tom Givens did, having the vision that he had. Without TacCon, there wouldn't be a combative summit. I mean, let's. I mean, it's like to say it's comparable. I can't really do that. I mean, we only had one successful so far, so to say that it's there at that level, I can't really say that just yet. But I mean, I could definitely say that like a lot of the presenters that you would see at AttackOn, they're presenting at the summit, and
Yep.
but they're also presenting kind of the TacCon is allowing them to let the next foot fall forward, right? Like we're talking about self defense, we're talking about de escalation, we're talking about kind of all sides of the spectrum. It just because of the way we're approaching this, it gives us that ability to talk about self defense in a holistic way. Um, Dealing with the legal side, dealing with the verbal side. How do you deal with the verbal assault? How do you draw on a drawn gun using kind of language as a weapon? How do
Mhm.
you defend against a knife attack? And all these things that we all know are a part of self defense, but we typically don't have the means to approach it in a lot of times. And also sometimes for the long time, I should say, the market just wasn't really ready for it. We had a lot of real strong personalities and permeating myths that we had to uh, almost experience the failure, so that way we can, all right, this doesn't work, let's look at something else. And then you get a guy, some crazy Mississippi narc out there figuring this out, like, hey, this martial art didn't work the way I thought it was going to work, so let me throw on some motorcycle helmets with some sims and figure this out. You had, Matt Larson, who is demoing the army combatives techniques, like, yeah, this doesn't work the way my experience as a soldier. So then he started developing, and everything just everything has kind of been building up, right? You had in the 90s, you had the UFC come in, you had the modern army combatives, you had ShivWorks developing, all the people that came out of that. You had TacCon develop. So this is kind of just this is really building off all that work and everything just kind of culminating together. It's not revolution, it's just the next evolution. And really that's really what it is. We're building off the work of our mentors. I think it's definitely appropriate to always cite your sources, to give credit where it's due. But I also think it's insulting to your mentors to only repurpose their product.
Hmm.
I think when people dedicate their life to a body of work, what they want to see is people that are truly about the work, take it to the next level. And that's really what the Combative Summit is about.
Yeah, and man, I'm telling you, folks, if you're on the fence about coming to this event, I'm telling you, you need to make the choice. And if you're, and God forbid I say, if you're on the fence and you've got this next firearms class that you want to take, God bless you. But if you've had multiple firearms classes and you need to close the loop on your combatives training, wait for that class next year and sign up for the Combative Summit. I promise you, it will be well worth it, and you will thank yourself for it. I promise. And it sounds like what would be the proper term? It seems like maybe I'm blowing smoke, but I'm not. Because I'm an end user, to use use John's word, that I was a beneficiary, and I'm always excited about things, but I will absolutely say whether or not something has value to me. I'm 50 now. I don't mince words. If something sucks, it sucks. If it's mediocre, it's mediocre. I don't mind saying that. But the Combative Summit last year was an incredible event. I think I said it this way too as well. I said I knew it was going to be epic, but it was 10 times better. That's the best way I can describe it.
Mhm.
So
That's huge coming from you, man. That's really huge. And because you're an informed practitioner, right? Like you're actively training, you're constantly still refining. You didn't just go to a course and stop. So like you're a real dedicated practitioner. So like not to say that anybody else's feedback is worth less, but feedback from like a dedicated practitioner means a lot.
thank you, John. I appreciate that. Well, is there anything else you want to hit on? And before I ask you that question, because it's kind of a good time to say this. So I've been working with 2nd Brigade 82nd on some projects at work. And I just happened to be carrying this. I don't know if the audience members can see this. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
But this was some of my swag from the summit last year. And so this has got the Combatives Summit Association for folks that can't see this. They're listening. So this was one of the pieces of swag, which is a Nageline bottle with the summit logo on it. Really cool. That's with me a lot of the time, but I had that at work. And some of the soldiers were talking about jiu-jitsu and, talking about their combatives training. And, I'm listening. It piques my interest. And one of the soldiers said something about, hey, jiu-jitsu is, folding people up in their clothes or something like that. So then I said, hey, who does jiu-jitsu here? And, a couple of the soldiers said, I do. I said, where you train? And they described where they train as one of the gyms I'm vaguely aware of. And I said, yeah, I train. I'm also a coach at my gym, and we got a few things going on our own as well. And one of the soldiers, yeah, I saw that. I was going to ask you about that. I saw your bottle, and we started talking. And I said, Yeah, I mean, this event, I told them about it and I said, you guys need to try to make it there, and I told them the website and both of them looked excited. And so I just wanted to tell you just that water bottle, you know, piqued at least a couple of possible patrons. And it was just a fun discussion as well. And then I mentioned that, one of the folks involved is Matt Larson, and both of them like, oh, we know who he is.
Yeah.
So again, it was just it was kismet for that to come up today and for me to be able to talk about how fun that was today. I just thought I'd mention that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I was a 82nd paratrooper myself, so seeing that still permeate in the culture, that's awesome.
That's right. So what brigade were you in?
I was in 1st Brigade.
Okay. Yeah. We worked with 1st Brigade not too long ago as well. I mean, of course, I'm stationed here at Liberty. Well, I like to still call it Bragg. So
pisses me off, man.
Taking away part of our history, right?
Yep.
But for silly reasons, and spending millions and millions of dollars around the United States. But
Did
yeah,
they change Bragg Boulevard too, or is it Liberty Boulevard now?
I think it's still Bragg Boulevard. Now I hadn't been out that way for a minute. I'm lucky that I don't have to go out Bragg Boulevard very much.
Yeah.
it was it as raggedy back then when you were here, or
Yeah. Yeah.
What's raggedy mean? Translate for the layperson.
Well, what I would say is that if you want to practice some of your combative skills or possible shooting skills, you might just cruise on down Bragg Boulevard. Would you agree, John?
Yep, 100%, man. That or Murchison Road is like, and that's like, if like make a left at the Merc, you're like, oh, let me make sure I got my Glock on me.
Yeah, they don't call it Vietnam for no reason.
Oh yeah, and bring back memories, dude.
Yeah, all joking aside, my wife and I, we love it here.
Yeah.
I can retire in about 6.5 years to do EvoSec full time with Aaron. But we are trying to stay here to that point, before we, pack our bags and head back to Oklahoma. But we love it here.
North Carolina's great, man. I love North Carolina. I mean, I ended up moving back there after I got out the Army for a bit. I was living out in Rayford, so yeah, North Carolina is an awesome place.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about that, because that's where I live. I live in North Rayford.
Yeah.
I won't say over the air exactly where, but
what's your address?
Yeah, I'll tell you offline where it's at, buddy.
Right.
You'll probably know where it's at. But yeah, I live in
right
Rayford.
outside the Chicken Road Gate.
Yep.
Right out there. So
yeah, bro, you and I need to have a conversation after this for certain. Well, cool. Anything else on the summit, John?
Man, I think Chris Palmer is coming out too. He just hit me up, said he's gonna make it out. He's like, yeah, man, I'm not. He said I don't have much to contribute, but I'm gonna go and ask questions. Like, man, this dude is like, I don't know, he's got like legit, I don't know, like 1,000 high risk entries or something like that.
Yep.
He's a legit SWAT cop. I mean, his presence is going to be well worth it. And that's kind of the thing, right? Like this is the Pepsi challenge. I reached out to him, reached out to Matt Pranka, reached out to Mike Pannone. Like I want real people that have done real things to come out to this thing and see it and give their honest feedback. Like if you haven't been on the whole tactical side of the internet for a bit, I mean, people know if Matt Pranka comes to your thing and it sucks, there's a lot of risk involved there. And he's gonna make sure right? And or his conversations of consequences kind of thing. So that's the first person I reached out to, man. I was like, yeah, I want you to come 100% on me. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Like, you can be as honest as you want. You can be as public as you want. So I want everybody. I want people to take the Pepsi challenge. I'm down for it.
Well, and of course, Matt Matt came on our show after the event, and he, of course, had nothing but great things to say about it. So yeah, that's, if folks don't know who Matt Pronk is, you should by now. Of course, he's only really come out into the community the last couple of years. But yeah, Matt's one of those dudes that have done the real thing. Yep. And he's also a GM in USPSA, so he freaking knows how to shoot as well. But yeah, again, some, to that point, John, that just, you are humble, but when you go out and reach out to folks that there's consequences if stuff doesn't come out well, then that you knew this was going to be a good product. I'm sure of that. Yep. With the folks involved and with the focus and what the mission statement was, so to speak. Yeah, man, I'm pretty pumped for you, as successful as it's been. Now, I will ask you this. So I'm assuming this is Mike Sanford's gym. Is that true?
Yeah, this is Mike's gym. Mike and oh my God, Mike and Alan Belcher. This is their gym.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that was Alan's gym as well. Okay. Yep. But very cool. Yeah, and again, we mentioned Craig earlier. Mike Sanford is who gave Craig his black belt not too long ago, and meeting Mike, and he, again, another humble dude. Just, I watched him in many cases, just kind of course, he was participating in a lot of the classes, but there were also times where he would sit and listen, just completely inquisitive. And it was cool just to see him observe and learn and participate and see what his thoughts were. I'm just such a nice guy too.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a lot of people. He had I'm just gonna say the word prejudice just because I think it's appropriate. When he heard the word combatives, he would think about like kind of just some bullshido or McDojo type stuff. and I one of the things I took away from that weekend, and he was like, yeah, man, like this is going to turn combatives into what it's supposed to be when there's real badass instructors teaching real information that's practical and can actually affect change and be effective for the average person. um so I think that was huge, right? That was huge because for a long time, like if you go and you follow hashtag combatives, it's always some kind of like weird knife stuff where like you do 6 moves to my one for whatever reason. I couldn't somehow get the motor skills to counter the go toe to toe with this dude. Or it's just always weird stuff, a weird gun stuff, guys for some reason violating the basic rules of firearm safety in the name of making it combatives. But we've realized, or I think as a group what we've done is, so like, yeah, these things there is a core skills that apply to the entangled fighting, and these are the training methods as far as how to get good at those skill sets. And just because we're calling it one thing or another doesn't mean that we get to violate basic rules of safety or basic fundamentals. We don't get to violate the principles of how to train these things. Um, so having all these guys together, just this is, yeah, man. I'm very happy to be doing something for a group of people, and doing something with a group of people that have done so much for me as far as helping me get this material and understand how to do this, how to teach this stuff.
Well, it occurred to me, John, as you were speaking then, that with all of the available information and the filtering that has gone on, and let's just say in the last 10 years, let's start 10 years ago, then 5 years ago, and then even 2 or 3 years. How is it that so many people as quote influencers still get by pushing total bullshit? How is that, do you think? I mean, because it's fair if someone puts their mind to it just a little bit, you can find the approximately, let's just say 50 subject matter experts. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 25, but let's just say roughly 25 people that this world kind of almost revolves around, or that are the heavy hitting leaders. They're easy to find.
Mhm.
Why is it that there's still somewhat of a niche market for this legitimate training and legitimate trainers? I know that's almost too many questions, or it's loaded, but I just don't understand how people just still buy the BS, the McDojo stuff, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think people they're I think customers, they don't treat their money with the same respect that someone hiring a employee would.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is, like, if you were to hire somebody today, you would look at their knowledge, you would look at their skill, and you would look at their abilities, and you would look at it in a very objective way, right? You wouldn't just have them tell you something very benign or abstract or intangible and just like, oh yeah, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. So, and I want to be respectful here, but at the same time, just use it as a placeholder. For instance, if someone says special operations, like that is such a broad term,
Mm-hmm.
but people don't really understand what that means. As a civilian, they really don't know what that means. They think probably someone like a tier one Delta guy, that if someone was in special operations, this person, they kicked in doors, they do all the things, and they're a master of the dark arts. And that's not necessarily true.
Right.
So I think you have to learn a lot to figure out who you're hiring. And I don't think people really have done the time to learn about who they're hiring.
mm,
Right. The next thing is that, for the most part, this is a America's a very peaceful society. So people don't really suffer the consequences for doing the wrong things very often.
mm,
They don't really go and maybe fail at a self-defense situation, or they don't experience kind of legal repercussions or anything like that. I mean, that's just it just doesn't happen very often. Um, sovereignty of state is great until it's not, right? So just because something's a federal law, and then like you get caught up in New Jersey or something like that carrying a
Yep.
pistol, like you're screwed, dude. So things like that. That's another thing. The other side, I would say, and this is kind of unpopular, but it's true. Some people want to buy the lie.
mm.
That
Yep.
some people, they just don't believe it's that simple. Like, oh no, it can't be as simple as do 4 core lifts. It can't be as simple as just continue to show up. It can't be as simple as dry fire 20 minutes a day. It can't be that simple. It actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is. I like, if you want to save, you guys don't have to spend, $300 to train with me for a day. It's that simple. Go lift, go to jujitsu, dry fire 20 minutes a day. You do that, you'll be fine. But people, they think that some guys coming out and they give them this complexity science answer, like, oh yeah, this guy, he's got the answer. But most of the part, and you guys have been around long enough to where you guys know what I'm saying is true, that the guys who are teaching it or talking about whatever subject from a complex angle, they're usually novices, or they're usually capable novices, right? They know more than somebody who knows nothing. So it makes it look like, I mean, by comparison, knowing nothing to knowing, that is a lot. It's a huge difference. So I think that's part of it. Why are people waking up and practicing sword fighting right now? Why? Like there was a dude on the combatives group that was posting up techniques fighting with a spatula. It's like
Yeah,
what? You know what I mean? Like,
Did
yeah.
you revoke that dude's membership?
oh yeah, we gave him the boot real quick, but
I
I mean,
remember seeing that.
yeah,
I was
man.
like, what the? Yeah, and I every now it's very seldom that somebody
That's
posts something really
hilarious.
wacky on there. You you do a good job, and whoever may be helping you with weeding out some of that. So that every now and then I'll see something like, ooh, this person probably doesn't really understand the audience of this group.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen very often. Every now and then it does, but for the most part, like TPI was pretty well filtered and pretty well policed, I should say, and not as in a dictator sense. Just yeah,
no,
we don't. And I'm not going to speak for you, but my thought process is that John, you and whomever is helping you with the group doesn't want anybody to think that any of the bullshit out there is viable. So
yeah,
that's probably why
Yeah,
you keep it
you
pleased.
don't endorse spatulas as main defensive implements.
yeah, and it's like it's not even a good thing to do, even in a country that has heavy restrictions. It's just it's like, dude, for that, go buy a bag of apples and get a paring knife
Yep.
and just carry those things. Nobody will question
Yep.
why you got a paring knife if you got apples with you. You
See,
got
man, that's a good tip.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
right, like
And
it's not hard. Or put a screwdriver in your pocket. Y- You know what I mean? Like what?
screwdrivers have taken out a lot of people.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Add some socket wrenches and such so you look like you may be ready to work on your motorcycle. In those countries they usually have a motorcycle.
And so John, I will endorse what you just stated.
mm,
Anytime I've been overseas somewhere that I couldn't have a weapon, but I could find a store that I could find a paring knife or some form of a cooking knife, I definitely would grab it up, make a little sheath or just, have some form of carrying it where I wouldn't get in trouble.
yeah,
And oh yeah, man, because when you feel naked when you're in certain areas, man, you want to have something. So I second that for certain.
yeah. That like this stuff isn't like I said. It actually is that simple. It actually is that simple. But like complication, uh, like like a lot of the guys that the circles I run with, they don't do a lot of marketing because they're busy training. Marketing, now that I'm learning it, I'm realizing that it's a very involved skill. Like you can't just throw it out there. Like you have to constantly, it's something that requires repetition and refinement. It requires reps to
Hmm.
get good at. And guys just rather put their time and energy into improving their product. Um, so that but there are other people that they put all their time into marketing. So generally they're not that good. I'll be honest about it. I haven't seen people that have a heavy marketing angle that are actually good. Craig right now, he's an anomaly because he's got somebody to do that for him. And even then, like most of the stuff that they record, the content they do is done from a cell phone.
Yep.
So it's not It's not super incredibly difficult. I mean, and starting strength is another anomaly, but that's because Nick Delgadillo, as the president of the country, has spent the last 6 years or 7 years just learning how to take pictures, learning how to record video, learning how to mix sound. So it's right, like they didn't just pop out overnight. And the other thing is that they're focused on getting good at what they do first, right? And that's a very very different thing.
Well, and man, I just want to second Nick Delgadillo. Man, is such an awesome person. Man, just shout out to Nick. I know he listens to the show often. Man, he's just a kind person that cares about helping people get strong. Heck, he cares about making people better at combatives. You know, he's a jiu-jitsu instructor, owns a gym himself. But yeah, like you said, it's funny. I've been very, very heavy into their podcast recently. I mean, I've listened to it for years, but I have kind of revisited because of something we were going to talk about here in just a second. Maybe it's a good segue. But yeah, Nick does an awesome job of producing that show, and and plus, Mark Ripatoe is just funny as hell too, man.
Dude, that's like 100% him. Like I thought, like I was like, man, is this guy like, is that real? Is that just like something for you, dude? He is exactly the same as he is in on YouTube. It's glorious. It's great. I love it.
I had to, so if you got kids listening, just turn it down for a split second. But one of the things I showed my wife the other day, because I was watching a video, that mug or those set of titties on it.
Yeah, right.
I said, my wife, I said, check this mug. And she goes, oh my gosh.
He had a booby mug.
Yeah, and it's on that podcast all the time.
And it's not like a small one either. It's a big mug.
Yep. Yeah, pretty funny.
A couple of enhanced ones, I guess, is what we're saying here.
Upgrades. They're upgrades.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And he always has a monkey sitting there next to him sometimes. Yeah, it's funny.
I need to check that out.
Dude, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, man. 4 core lifts, that's pretty much all you need. And speaking of which, I wanted to be in that class. I, had some decisions to make. And, it kind of is a good time for us to segue possibly. We can always circle back if you want to hit some other topics on the Combatives Summit. But, we talked offline before the show, and, it's not that I ever stopped working out. Mm-hmm. It's that I stopped lifting heavier, right? Yeah. I didn't do near as much barbell stuff, and I had a revisit recently after the second injury this year that, I'm just so pissed off at the world, and I talked to my wife, and it was after coaching in the morning, and I couldn't walk 2 hours later. And I'm not going to lie. I think I might've said this on the air, but I sat down next to my wife and I'd already called my boss and I said, I'm going to be in today. I, tweak my back again. And I sit down there and I actually came to tears for a split second. And I told my wife, I was like, I may not be able to do jiu-jitsu for a while. If maybe I can't do this shit anymore. And, that was me being emotional in the moment, and then right as I said that coming out of my mouth, I was like, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. I mean, that's part of me. But when I healed, one of my guys asked me, and he's an 18 alpha, awesome young man. And he asked me, he's like, so Eric, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to have surgery? And I'm like, I'm certainly thinking about. I'm thinking about having my disc replaced, and in that very moment, it was an epiphany, and I'm like, you know what? These doctors have been telling me for years, after my catastrophic injury, hey, you just need to stop doing as much barbell movement. And I knew better to listen to them. I absolutely did. I knew better.
Right.
And not to make this about me, I'm just kind of teeing up the next part of the discussion, is that in that moment, I'm like, I have been injured 3 times as much after I stopped a, a baseline strength barbell training program. And I said, screw it, man. There's two outcomes. Either I give this barbell rehab and this barbell strength training another try in my life at 50, or I get a surgery. Well, hell, I'd rather just try to give the barbell training a try, which I believe that's all I needed, but I had legitimate, and I talked with Nick about this. I said, I really had, and I still am dealing with what I believe is a true kinesiophobia,
Yeah.
where just completely worried about injuring myself again. But yeah, so yeah, that's me right now, is back on starting strength again. And I started with the bar 4 months ago, and
Yeah.
I'm still going really, really slow. And my ego is bothering me every now and then, but I'm in my own gym. I'm by myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got nothing to prove, but I'll get greedy every now and then. I'm like, just keep, this I'll be in a heavier lifts, in 6 months from now. But yeah, so I teed that up. So what does your current barbell training look like, brother?
So, I mean, actually just started getting back to it because in January, I don't know what I did, but I had a pretty significant back injury as well. And then, so man, for like 3 weeks, I had issues just like standing up straight, like carrying, like I was walking with, I'm a cop for my day job. And so I had like issues just like standing with my gear on, thankfully, like, my boss was pretty cool about like letting me be a desk sergeant for a bit so that way I can kind of recuperate. So what I did to mend that up was just a lot of reverse hypers. So the reverse
Yeah.
hypers machine is awesome. And then I called Nick up, and Nick kind of gave me a program and he coached me through as far as rehabbing using the barbell for rehab. And like my max before was like 391, which is pretty much all the weights I own in my home gym. And for a deadlift, and man, I had issues with like 65 pounds just kind of deadlifting. It was just like hurting me.
Wow.
But yeah, man, I posted last night. I'm back up. Man, I didn't even realize that I didn't have like shoes, belt, knee sleeves. I had just like started working out. That's it. Just started doing the barbell stuff, working through that, and man, I maxed out my weight again. Just like did a 391 for a single, and it moved easy. Like I felt like I could have did for reps. So, uh, just kind of focusing on the core strength and building up on that. Strengthening my hips, especially. Like I felt like I needed to rebuild my hips almost, and just kind of and strengthen my lower back a lot. Um, Stretch out my hip flexors because my hip flexors. I mean, jujitsu tends to make because you're constantly compressed, right? You're
Yep. Oh
always
yeah.
you're always bent forward and kind of in a ball. That's just kind of like how you keep yourself safe. So you've got to work the opposite direction. So that's what I did a lot of that. Um, and I took some time off from jujitsu just so I can focus
I
on
did too, buddy.
regaining my strength and just regaining that mobility. And what I mean by mobility is I really mean like range of motion under strength, under tension, not just of like, oh, I'm flexible and I've got mobility. No, Mobility means range of motion under tension through strength. Strong through an entire range of motion. That's what mobility is. And barbell training is like that's pretty much one of the only things you can do where you can move through a full range of motion completely loaded the entire time.
Okay, before we go too far into this, because this is interesting as heck to me, when we say I'm taking a stab at it, when we're talking about the 4 core lifts,
Yeah,
we're talking deadlift, squat, bench press, and overhead press.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might, for some people that aren't as grounded in this stuff, I think that does help people. I mean, that, like you said, it's that simple, and that can encourage people
Yeah.
because looking at all those, if you, I mean, you can literally grab a set of dumbbells and start with that stuff.
Yeah, and I would say that if folks are going to really focus on it, right, Aaron, you absolutely can. What I would say is if that they can start with, but man, if they have the
Yes,
opportunity
get the
yep,
bells for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Get the barbells for sure.
and or there's a lot of there's some cheap memberships out there too,
That's
at
true.
some of these Globo gyms. So problem is sometimes you're fighting for the squat rack because boy, when I belonged to a Globo gym, it nothing annoyed the hell out of me
Whoa,
more
bro.
than squat day, and I go in there and some assholes freaking doing barbell curls in the squat rack. Like, bro, there's 2 damn squat racks here, and you're doing curls.
That's why I have a home gym, man. It's like
Oh yeah, yep,
it's like the real thing that people have issues with is enduring the pain of patience.
yep.
That's why like simplicity doesn't appeal to a lot of people because like that pain of patience of just like, all right, you want a sub-second build drill or sub 2-second build drill. Okay, cool. You got to do this process. You've got to dry fire the build drill at a 1.6 part time. Just do that and then continue to try it. Don't just run the build drill, but continue to practice, dry fire it, then continue to run it. And then once a month, give it a shot. And you'll get there. You want to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Well, you got to continue to show up. Like, all right, well, you don't need like what are you now? Oh, I'm a white belt. All right. So right now you need to focus on just surviving the role. Like
Mhm.
you don't need to be thinking about like a black belt can basically decide what he's going to do, what he's going to prioritize, where he's going to go. That's not something you need to do. You need to think about how to just survive the role. But that could take anywhere 6 months to a year for some people. And so it's the pain of patience that usually that's where the attrition rate really happens in competition shooting, in jujitsu, in lifting. The pain of patience, that's what really gets people. That's the pebble in your shoe while you're climbing the mountain. Just like, man, I'm not as good as I want to be right now. And that's fine. But you'll be better than what you were yesterday if you train today.
Eric, that speaks to me, and this isn't patting myself or you. I'm speaking of Eric since I know him so well, patting ourselves on the back. But I think that being musicians has helped a ton with powering through the patience issue because Eric, you embrace rudiments.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I embrace picking exercises. It's cathartic to me.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And maybe it's different personalities, and just the fact that when we started playing music back in 5th grade, starting saxophone and trombone, then moving into guitar and drums, we just had the long haul in mind and knew that it took the little bits and pieces played as perfect as possible over time, and that would add up to being able to gig. So it's kind of, I hope that that's kind of germane to what you're saying there,
Oh yeah,
John.
because that's very, very tangible that you're not good at music. Because when you play a guitar and you don't know how to play it, shit sounds like cats screaming. So
Yeah, and to circle this back, I just thought about circle back Pisaki for some reason that came out of my brain.
Oh
there.
no.
Oh boy.
right.
Kami Pisaki. Anyway, so and we love simplicity, and I'm to the point where
In
it's like,
process?
well, simplicity in process and reductionism, in everything that we do. And that's why yes, it's something that I'm really fired up about right now is my renaissance in my barbell training. But I also, this show is also about trying to preach the right things that people need to be doing. And if you're wanting to work on strength training, I, we don't like to sit here and say, hey, there's only one way to do things. But I'll be honest with you, you don't need anything but starting strength methodologies. That's just my opinion. Maybe that's going too far for some people. But I mean, and I'll just say it this way. So I've got my gift from Nick Delgadillo sitting here, Starting Strength, 3rd edition. Guys have to get this book. Subscribe to the Starting Strength podcast and also on YouTube. There's so much value of just listening to them speak on the lifts, speak on the physics behind the lifts, speak on why they teach the way they do. And then lastly, endorsing this book is the Barbell Prescription that I've been talking about recently, because this is, helping me I'm 50, Aaron and I are 50, which is still young, but it's to the point where I like this book for how it's helping me structure my lifting around being a little bit more seasoned is my point. So I just wanted to I want to push these books as often as I can, and lift up Nick and lift up Mark Ripito and his and all his coaches around him.
Well, there's a kind of a pattern you start to see emerge too with all these guys, right? Like that. Like when we talk about the process, right? Like people use that word, the process. What are we actually talking about? We're talking about constant repetition and refinement, doing the same things and getting better at them. Now, what people really struggle with, and I very much believe this. I think that almost everyone has an anti-intellectual approach to training. They're not thinking about what it is that they're doing, and they're not thinking about what they need to improve on. A lot of what people do, and to be fair, right? Like you want to enjoy training, so a lot of times what you do is what you're good at because you want to enjoy it. And I get that. There's value in that. But again, right? This is still, even if it's something hard like jujitsu or lifting weights heavy. Um, if you stay in your comfort zone, you still won't improve. And if you are constantly sticking with the program, sticking with the process, like whatever it is you try to do, just pick a religion and stick with it, right? And what'll happen is you'll improve better than probably more than what you can imagine. I mean, starting strength has people that have been doing this well into the geriatric phase of their life. Like we
Mm-hmm.
had a dude, Frank, who's like 70 years old. Dude has like a 400 and something deadlift. And
Get
he's like
some.
3 inches shorter than me, dude. And brand new shoulder, artificial shoulder. Um, and so what happens is like you start seeing that people they're like, oh well, I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. It's just like, no, you're going to keep the limits you argue for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're gonna be really like I think that's really kind of where people suffer these mental health issues, right? Because they end up having a hard time looking at themselves because of who they could have been. And that's like one of the things that we say in combatives is that it helps bridge the gap between who you really are and who you want to be, or who you think you are and who you really are. And becoming who you really want to be is another way to look at that. And so that's what's really cool about all these people that we're talking about that are presenting at the Combative Summit. They've all engaged in a process that to solve their own problems. They were all trying to scratch their own itch, whatever that may be. They didn't just throw some program together because there was a market demand for it. It's just that everyone has the same problems, whether they're talking about a self defense problem, it's a lifting problem, a shooting problem. All these things we started to find the principles in the core skills and training them, and that's what's really like kind of the a very cool pattern that I see emerged with everybody.
Yeah, that's great, John. And because we've been talking about strength and we've been talking about starting strength, and Nick Delgadillo is that was I didn't finish my thought earlier. That's my bad because my brain went into the next statement.
All
But
right.
what I was going to bring up about the Combative Summit, and Nick taught a couple of sessions, I believe.
Yeah.
But what did he teach? He taught deadlift. To my knowledge, that's what he taught. And even though I am still, again, that was a lift that I avoided, during, after my major injury. And so I am absolutely learning a starting strength method and still getting better at it. But overall, it's one of the easiest lifts to learn. It's let me be careful about what I'm saying there. There's details that you must have, and again, that's why I'm pushing that book. But if you listen to Nick and or Mark Ripito or any of his coaches talk about the lifts, the deadlift's one of the easiest ones to learn. So that's a good place to start. So the reason I brought it up at the summit is because that's what one of the lifts the lift that Nick taught. And then he gave a presentation afterwards. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, again, in my renaissance, I'm getting a lot of those videos feeding. I had no clue that he put that video out there. I just missed it. And so I watched that the other night, and it was hilarious. This doesn't really have any bearing on it. But I remember walking through there to go to the bathroom. And I looked in there in the video. I'm peeking in there. I'm like, look at this doofus.
It's there was a study that came out too from like a University of Limerick in Ireland that they showed that there's like they'd studied like 1,800 people, and just the deadlift, right? Just the deadlift alone had a significant impact on reduction or depression. Just
Wow.
deadlift,
I
right?
believe it, man.
Like
I know this is goofy, guys, but I literally I know this is funny, but I opened this book, literally just opened it to the deadlift page when you guys start talking about it.
there you go.
That's weird.
Yeah. So to kind of close this discussion, yeah, it's I'm pretty pumped about it. I mentioned the other night I didn't get an expensive belt, but I got a new belt, and I've had my lifting shoes for quite some time, and it's one of those things when I have been lifting in the afternoon because normally I work out in the morning. Or if I'm coaching, I have not been coaching recently because of some schedule changes at work. My new boss, but we're working on that. But normally I would work out in the morning anyway. But to really do this program properly, I need more time than I have in the morning. Even if I wake up at 4:30, and I still have to I still have to I want to, hydrate just a little bit and drink a little bit of coffee before I get into my gym at say 5:15.
Right.
And for me to finish my proper starting strength program, I need a lot longer. I need, an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes to do it right. So that's probably too long, but that's what it ends up. I mean, if they prescribe a 5-minute rest, I guess is the typical suggestion between your sets. And I may be wrong on that, but that's what I've been trying to do, and it's been helping. So what do you rest between sets?
Yeah.
I'll just ask you.
Between 2 and 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. It just
I may
depends on like how heavy I'm lifting. Like if I'm lifting like max effort, then it's going to be probably close to your 4 minutes. If it's like, I don't know, something where like I'll kind of lift for like for reps of like 3 or 5, for like 80% of whatever my max is, just to kind of just condition and raise my threshold, right? So that
and in full disclosure, also my workouts take longer too at my age because I warm up a long time.
Yeah, that's fine, man.
I do warm up a long time. Well, at least I'll do some cardio for about 10 minutes, and I mean, I'm not doing a high effort cardio, but I'm warming my body up. And
pick up an inertia wave, man.
Say again.
Pick up an inertia wave.
What's that, buddy? Educate me.
Inertia wave, it's kind of like battle ropes, but they're like I don't know what they're made of. I think they're made of like rubber. So you can actually sanitize them. They're not nasty. And it's because it's like a stretch material. You're constantly like working your posterior chain. Like you have to maintain your posture using them.
Nice.
And yeah, man, it's great to get the blood flowing, man. So you do that.
Oh, I will check that out.
Yeah.
I jump on, when I'm not that I got on the subject of warming up, but I have my favorite cardio machine lately has been my Echo bike. And so I'll, do some, I'll row for 2 minutes and I'll jump on my Echo bike and do a harder effort minute, and I'll rotate in between those. And then I do a little bit of mobility before I lift. But I mean, frankly, if you're doing full range squats, when you're starting your warm up, you're getting warm up from that too. But
yeah.
Well, I bet the audience, they're like, man, I need to check this stuff out. Enough about lifting. No, I'm kidding. It's okay.
Go get strong, guys. Go get strong. It'll change your life.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, man, Aaron, you got anything else you want to hit on?
Man, I'm just excited about digging into this weightlifting stuff again. I've been dealing with flipping tennis elbow really bad, John. And I just feel like every time I get something fixed, I hurt something else. So I've just dug back in, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to push through a little bit of pain because
and Aaron, I'm curious. So you could probably, squat. Does the squat barbell wise bother your tennis elbow?
It does not that bad, no. So
yeah, you might. I mean, heck, bro, I'm just making a suggestion. That's the core lift right there, brother. Maybe you, because I'm sure if tennis elbow deadlift probably a little bit difficult, but yeah, man. I mean, if all you're doing is squat right now, bro, try starting with squat, man. Maybe a suggestion. John, your thoughts on that?
Man, I had tennis elbow for a bit, just doing jiu-jitsu, and I got like a bucket of sand. So I'll just like dig my fingers in there, like, and extend my fingers against the resistance to the sand. That, I don't know, that's an investment worth, I don't know, $4.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is when I had tennis elbow,
Yeah.
I got those extenders. Yeah,
Oh,
just that's exactly what I used.
I used that, and something called a gyro ball. So you just kind of you just grab hold on to it, and it's kind of like spinning like with inertia, and then you just kind of continue to work that through there. So that, and then also the I'll just massage the part that so you don't want to like massage where you have the pain. You want to massage the other side, because
Huh.
that is like that opposite side. You need that side to release, so that way it's not pulling this way. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'll send you the video, man, of the guy that,
oh, I'd love to because, bro, I've been dealing with this
dude, that
it,
shit sucks.
It
since.
does big time.
So, I have the blessing of my jujitsu coach
Mhm.
basically naming his range the EvoSec range. So I've got
That's awesome.
essentially I've got my own range now. I was out there working last November. I think Eric was even here. I can't remember. Eric was here, I think, when I was doing it. I was out there running a chainsaw, working on quote my range,
Mm,
right? Trying to get because we were working on the berm and everything, and from that point on, dude, I've been dealing with tennis elbow, and now I am on my second month of BPC 157, and I don't know if it's going to help or not. I'm going to give it this cycle and maybe one more if it doesn't help. But
yeah. I'm not a
I've
physical therapist, but I've been hurt a lot, so I
say it again, buddy.
I said I'm not a physical therapist, but I've been hurt a lot, so I can
Well, buddy, I'll really
Tennis
appreciate
elbow is
your
an overused.
um uh, help your. So you said you can send me some info. Now I am curious. How long did you deal with it?
Oh man, it felt like at least 6 months to like up to a year. It
Yeah,
was a long time, and it just kept coming back. I'd get rid of it for a little while, and then it just kept coming back. And then I found this one guy, and like I followed this protocol, and then it finally freaking went away. And
dude. Thank God, man. I would love for you to point me in the right direction because it's really slowed me down.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
it was the
I,
same thing.
I
It was simple, but I was like, oh man, it can't be that simple. It was.
wow.
Yeah,
Well,
I'd
yes,
like to certainly see Aaron get that shit under control.
I
Help him
I
with this
taught
training.
a level 2, our defensive pistol level 2 class last weekend,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun. The students did well, and dude, I shot with them quite a bit just because I wanted to and have some fun. But
Yeah,
dude, it's definitely taken my shooting back a few notches.
yeah, man. It really sucks, dude.
Yeah, and when I had it real bad, I mean, it might have been 3 years ago. I had it real bad, and yeah, I mean, your grip. I mean, and it is my right hand, so I'm left-handed, but I do a lot of things with my right.
Mhm.
And that's where my main grip in many cases in jujitsu and for a lot of my game. And man, I was like, I had to stop using that grip. It kind of helped me in some areas in my jujitsu, but one of the things that really helped me was those extenders. And
Mhm.
I stopped doing pull-ups and went to chins. And I think that was really what was bugging me more than anything was standard pull-ups. Because after pull-ups, man, that was when I would have the biggest flare-ups. So, well,
Well, man,
cool.
I would appreciate that for sure, John.
Yeah, man. I'll find it. Once I find it, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Well, John, we didn't really have a huge plan tonight. Normally, we like to have an outline, because it helps with flow. But when we were talking offline, I was like, well, I know we'll have a good time regardless of what we talk about, and we all speak well together. But just like I thought, man, it'd be just fine. We'd have plenty to talk about. So this has been a fun show, man.
Yeah, man. It's always come out good coming on and talking with you guys, man. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, man, I think we'll go ahead and call it an evening. I'm out here on the East Coast, and I do have to get up a little bit early, so I'm probably gonna call it an evening if you guys are cool with that.
Sounds good. I'm going to go
Yeah.
grab my wife and go for a walk around the block a few times.
Cool. That
Hey, you
sounds like
guys, have a good night. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
you guys
All
have
right.
a blessed one. Later, guys.
Bye.